Hi, and welcome to the CX Pod. I'm Liz Glagowski of the Customer Strategist Journal. Today, we'll be talking about something very near and dear to everyone, their phones. And in particular, how messaging is changing interactions on mobile phones for the better. We're all familiar with SMS text messages. It's been the standard on smartphones for over 20 years. But 20 years in the tech world is a lifetime. And enter RCS, which is a new way to up the messaging game and deliver better experiences for your customers and for your business via mobile. So here to sort things out through all the acronyms and all the ins and outs of RCS, get us up to mobile speed, is Alex Campbell, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Vibes, a mobile intelligent platform company. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So glad to have you today. So why don't we start from the beginning before we get too deep into RCS? Maybe tell us a little bit about your company and then your role within it.
Yeah, I mean, you say 20 years is a lifetime. I started Vibes more than 20 years ago, so it has literally been my lifetime, my professional lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a co-founder at Vibes. We started a long time ago. I mean, it's interesting that as messaging and all the acronyms, the technology changes. The core mission of what we're trying to do with messaging is still the same, like no matter what technology you're on. So I'll go into a little bit about my background. So I started the company here in Chicago. And we've always had this vision of you have mobile on one side and then you have marketing on the other side. They're going to connect, but we always knew that it was going to be different. Advertising and kind of that traditional marketing, has always been centered around how do I almost interrupt your day and get you to see something and get you to know about something. I think with mobile, it's just so different. With mobile, it has to be, I always say your mobile phone is a mission-driven device. And when you experience bad mobile marketing, it usually gets in the way of your mission rather than helps your mission. So the example I use is, you go to ESPN to check a sports score, and there's always that 12-second takeover ad. It's usually a car, and it's preventing you from seeing the score. That's bad because that's where you get frustrated. If the marketing can actually help you and help you figure something out on your phone, that's good marketing. And I go back to kind of the original idea of the technologies might change, but that's always the same. And it's very critical for mobile.
Mm-hmm. Great. So as the company's evolved and as you evolved, talk a little bit about how important messaging is for brands. Maybe it used to be a little bit and now it's a big part of their, or maybe sometimes their priority in terms of how connecting with customers. And then maybe talk about a little bit about what RCS is and how that plays a role.
Yeah. So with messaging and brands, and so at Vibes, we work with very, very large companies. The Ralph Lauren's of the world, Chipotle, Children's Place, Kohl's. So big enterprises. Those brands want to and need to maintain a relationship with their customers on the one-to-one level. And so this is where messaging comes in. So, messaging allows a brand to cut through the clutter of all of the other stuff that we as consumers see every day and actually have that communication and relationship with the end user. That's what messaging is really good at. There are other channels within mobile, even within mobile itself, where I can do a mobile app, I can do a mobile website. But if I need to get you information right now as a consumer, messaging is the only way to do that. Email used to be very good at that, and now it's kind of fallen off. I think I heard of my first, single digit open rate, which is just that media has been just cluttered with a lot of stuff and spam. And I mean, I think in my email inbox right now, literally I have 2,532 unread emails, right? So if you're a brand and you want to talk to your customer, messaging is the way to do that, right? And it's actually, it's been a very good media or channel, I'd say, because it's been protected. You do see some spam, and you see some, text messages that are, the toll collectors, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're getting those a lot.
Yeah, you get those, but like compared to email, it's amazing. It's a very clean, channel, and I would credit the mobile carriers for actually doing that. They've kept it clean. They've made sure that you don't get spam, and that's a good thing, and that's a great thing for marketers, because it's, when I get a text message, I read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, going to the evolution of where messaging started. I mean, I don't know if you remember back to the triple tap days where you had the, without the smartphones.
T9 stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so, now it evolved, SMS evolved, MMS evolved, where you can actually send pictures. And now we have RCS. So RCS is, the protocol itself is not new. It's been around almost a decade now. But what changed last year was Apple announced that they were going to support RCS. So it used to be that on Android, you could send an RCS message, but you couldn't send one to an iOS device. That, for a big brand, that doesn't help, right? I don't want to send a message to half of my audience. And so now the fact that Apple has opened up, and within iOS, it's actually RCS supported. Now, when I send an RCS message, it can go to everyone. So that was the first hurdle. What RCS is, it's called Rich Communication Services. So the way I like to describe it is, it gives you more functionality in that message than you had before. And, iOS users, Apple users will know when you went from text messaging to iMessage. That's a similar change that we see now with brands who can send a message with high resolution images, videos. You can get tapbacks. I can see when someone's reading my message and responding. I can see that it was delivered. So it adds a lot more functionality for brands to communicate with the end user.
Great. So I'm an Apple user, so seeing that delivered message, seeing those bubbles. So this is now a way for companies to be able to see that on anything that they're sending. So
when you are now interacting with a brand, you will see that it was delivered. You will see the little bubbles, like they're called ellipses. So, which is really interesting, because that actually creates a little social dynamic, right? And this is something that we had to think about. Right. As a marketing platform, is, if you're the consumer and you send a message to a brand and you see that the brand has read your message, like, if they don't respond, like, that's not good, right? Any teenager will tell you. I mean, I get yelled at from my daughters, my teenage daughters, all the time of, "Dad, you left me unread." Like, that's the ultimate insult, right? And yet brands do this all the time, right? And so it's really interesting that now you have that visibility. Like, as a brand, you have to think about that, and it adds this new kind of social dynamic to messaging.
Yeah, it becomes more personal and intimate, right? Yeah. When that you can see if they're reading it. It does add more potential, not stress, but urgency on the part of the brand to react and respond, not just blast out something and then not do anything, not do anything on the back end. That two-way communication. So this is, as a CX podcaster, this is really where I'm curious about how it's elevating that customer experience on the customer side and on the brand side. So what are some ways that brands are starting to use it to connect with their customers more deeply?
Yeah, so right now, and we're in the early days of launching RCS, and so right now what we're seeing is, I mean, we have about 100 different, they're called agents, RCS agents. So those are brands that are using this so far, and really to date, it's been more around it's focused more on the visuals, like what visuals can I provide, within RCS, there's a button as opposed to a link. And so,
okay. That's nice. Instead of that, vanity link that has these weird characters in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just random characters and what is this link? What do I do? You can actually now make it a button. Now, it's interesting that one of our first learnings was, as we tested, we would send an RCS message with a button and a link, and then just a link. And people didn't know to hit the button. So we had a much lower click-through rate on just the button, but it's clearly just because people they've never seen this before, so they don't know that
Right.
they can actually click a button within a text message.
Right. They're thinking it's a flat image where the button is just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was something that surprised us because we thought, oh, button, everybody's just going to click the button, but like there's going to be some time where people need to figure out that they actually can click that, right? So there is a little bit of a learning curve with the consumer right now because they've never seen this before. So going back to your question, right now we're encouraging our customers to test and figure out what are those use cases where RCS does a much better job than SMS or MMS, where it's kind of the same. And maybe where there isn't as much value, that's what we're trying to figure out. Because one thing, I've been doing this, over 20 years now, and I'm always surprised about some of the things that I never thought would work that actually work. There are things I thought would work well that don't, right? So our philosophy with our customers has been, test until like you're satisfied you found some use cases that really work well here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the stage we're in right now. I think in the next year, RCS is way more interactive. We talked about the read receipts and seeing someone got the message. So like you'll be able to go back and forth a lot more within the messaging itself. And what I'm most excited about is you can actually add functionality to messages. So I think we most people have gotten a message saying, hey, you left something in your cart. Do you want it? And here's a little link to click. I can now send you a picture of that with a button that says buy now. So, going back to the whole mission idea, right, is like if I think everyone's done something where they left something in their cart and they've gotten way distracted on something else and totally forgotten about it. But if I now get a message saying, hey, you want this, like click here to buy, that actually helps me as the consumer because it's so much easier. I don't have to go through all these links and go back into my cart and all that. And so that's where I think RCS will really help is, your appointment, your car is ready, right? Or you have a reservation coming up. Do you want to change it? A lot of that can now happen within the message itself rather than having to take you to an app or to a mobile web page.
Yeah. So it's instead of bouncing around different channels, you're living in one and then creating less friction, right, for that customer, which is always what brands are trying to do, to have them complete the task.
Right? Going back to the CX side, it's just so much easier for the consumer because they don't have to, in order to get the ability to buy something, have to download your app, right? I mean, yes, we want everyone to download our app, but if as a big company, big brand, if you're lucky, you get 10 to 15% of your customers to download your app and half of them to actually use it. So like, what about the other 85%? Right? So like, what RCS can do is provide a lot of that app-like functionality in messaging, which everybody already has.
Yeah. Now, what about some of the new data and analytics and insight that might be available with RCS compared to some of the older tools?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the biggest thing right now are those read receipts, right? So knowing that I sent out a message and X number of people actually read it and then figuring out when they read it, right? So understanding that when I send out a text, we always say that, timing is really important for messaging. If you have a message that you need to get to your consumers right now, messaging is the only way to do that, right? If I email you something, you may look at it, whenever you look at it, right?
Yeah.
So there's some urgency around messaging. And so what we're encouraging our customers to think through is like, if you send a message and people don't read it for a while, like maybe you could have sent that as an email, right? Or, are you thinking about your content in a way that really fits with messaging? And you're starting to see some of the analytics around it of like, maybe someone read it and then they didn't click it until 30 minutes later. That may show that you didn't really have a compelling message, right? What you want to see is you send a message, people open it and they click it right away. And that's what we're kind of shooting for. We have a mantra at Vibes of the perfect send, which is no opt-outs and everybody clicks it. So like, that's kind of aspirational, right?
Has that ever happened?
No, it is not. But we want to get there, right? That's where we want to get to. Now I know that I sent the perfect message, right? And that's how you should be thinking about this. Because anytime you send a text messaging is expensive, right? It's not an email. And so when you send a message that someone doesn't click on or doesn't open, that's just wasted money, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how is this playing with some of your customers that are more focused on maybe younger consumers versus older consumers? Is it something that you're seeing younger consumers are taking to, they're noticing the button more, or they
No,
don't
no,
have the old habits to break as much, or what are you seeing?
not really. I mean, it's funny because messaging used to be that way, where it was
Mhm.
always like, oh, you got like kids are doing this, so you got to think about kids first. But it's everywhere. I mean, like my mom's using messaging, and honestly, like for someone like the way RCS should help is it should make it easier. It should make it easier so that you don't have to, you don't see a message with a random link in it that has these characters in it because everybody's trying to shorten their URLs. So like there are these weird characters. It's now just a button, right? Or two, or I can do a carousel, right? Where I can show many different things at once. And yeah, I can swipe through it. So what RCS should do is make it easier for everybody. And you don't need to, I mean, it used to be the kids will figure out how to use this and how to do it. And we had to kind of dumb it down for like the older generation. I mean, older, which I'm definitely in, right? Of like that generation. But it's like now it's like we can make it very simple and easy to use. And I think that, for me, the advice for brands that want to get into RCS is like, don't fall into the trap of like, ooh, there's this huge technology and look at all the things I can do and bells and whistles and I can do tap backs and I can do all these crazy things. Like, make it simple, like make it easier for the consumer. Because like, think about when you're sending someone a text, what do you want them to do, and make it as easy as possible for them to do that, right?
Yeah. So it's, as even though we're talking about technology, it's really about the technology is helping the actual interaction be better.
Yeah, the mission,
not just
right?
the bells and whistles of the technology.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like that. The example I use for like abandoned cart, right? So the mission there is you have a consumer who was about to buy something and actually probably wanted to buy it but got distracted. So the mission is like, how do you help them complete the transaction, which they wanted to do, make it easy for them, right? I mean, think about like an offer, right? I mean, you go to the basic like 10% off offer. I send you an offer that's 10% off. I want to make it as easy as possible for you to use that. Because if you get that and you forget about it, and then you like in the time goes away and like it expires, it's like, ooh, that sucks, right? From a consumer standpoint. So the message itself has the functionality in it of I want to use that. I mean, we use a lot of wallet, right? So mobile wallet, where I can send you a 10% offer and then you can just download it right to your phone and like totally forget about it. And then the wallet actually reminds you like on Friday that, hey, this is about to expire. Like that's a great use of like, while that is all marketing right there, but like I gave you an offer and I helped you use it, right? And that I think is a good experience for a consumer.
So you mentioned that Apple's now opened this up to their users. Where are we in terms of adoption? You said a lot of brands are testing right now, but
yep.
where are we in terms of is our audience going to be? Yep. Where are they going to feel like they're behind or on par with others? Where are we in terms of adoption? And then where are we going to be? How fast do you think it actually start increasing?
Yeah, it actually mirrored the iOS propagation, which is basically like when a new iOS comes out, it actually takes a while for people to update. It's a lot longer than you think, but we're now up to about 86%. So we can actually go and look at our databases and ping it against like and find out who is RCS capable. So right now we're seeing about 86%, which is plenty, right? So we're definitely at that point where enough people have RCS access. Now the question becomes, all right, when I send someone their first RCS message, they may have never seen something like this before, right? And so RCS doesn't come from like a 6-digit or 5-digit short code or a phone number. It comes from an actual brand. So it comes from a logo. And so which is really interesting. So from a trust standpoint, if I get a message that has my bank's logo, like I trust that a little more, right? And it has to be vetted and it'll say verified by either your carrier or by Google or whoever. So you can actually trust that message. I mean, go back to the whole, the tolls, right? You're getting a message from a toll. I mean, I literally actually just got one as we were talking from like a number in England, right? It's like, I don't trust that. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but if it came from an actual brand that's verified by Verizon or Google, like, okay, maybe I'll trust that a little more. So that's going to help, right? That's going to help the consumer experience know that, okay, I can actually trust this message.
So as brands start to experiment with this and start to use it more, what are some challenges or things to really think about that maybe you're seeing so far with testing that you can offer as some advice for others as they start to think about replacing SMS or adding it just as another vehicle? What do you recommend?
And it's funny because I see this with our customers where everybody wants to, not everybody, a lot of people want to jump in with this great use case that has like carousels and like menus and all these things because you can. But right now we've learned that consumers don't know they can click a button. Right. So like we gotta take baby steps and like gradually introduce these features. I mean, of course we have all these great demos, interactive demos that do all sorts of fun things. But I think that from what I always coach our customers on is like, all right, let's talk about basics. Like, what are we trying to do here? What is the mission? Don't overcomplicate just because you can, and really think of the consumer first. And like when they get this message, I mean, we always talk about like timing, right? Like, you and I are recording this right now. I'm not going to pay attention to any messages I get, but I will right after. Exactly, right? Yeah. Maybe if I were a teenager, I'd be multitasking. But like, think of where the person is. Are they at lunch? Are they like on the car? I've had a busy day. I mean, it was really interesting that one of our customers used to send messages by the way, a lot of people send messages at 10 a.m. just because I don't know, someone somewhere came up with 10 a.m. as like the time to send. It's not based on anything, right? So we introduced AI into our sending, and our AI kept telling our customers, don't send it in the morning, send it in the evening. And one of our customers was like, they were so adamant that 10 a.m. was the time. We're like, let's just let AI is trying to tell you something, like, let's just try it. And they found that they would send a message at 7 p.m. and they got, I think it was like 26 or 27% increase in response rate. And it just so happened a lot of their customers were young moms, and they just put their kids down.
Yeah,
and then they actually had free time to shop.
Yeah,
That's
or they're sitting in the bed next to the kid and
totally with their hand in the kid.
Yeah. Fall asleep. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a prime time.
Yeah. So in thinking, I guess my point there is like, there are some fundamentals to think through, and always think through, like when you're sending a message, yes, if you are, Chipotle and you want to get a message out at 11:30 a.m. right before lunch, that matters, right? And messaging is a great way to do that. But I always think through, when is the appropriate time to send? What is the content? What are people going to react to when they get that message? And if you send this huge, yes, it looks great, carousels, videos, all this, like people might right now be a little caught off guard. So, our advice is always, balance that interactivity in the technology with simplicity, right? And then gradually get out there with more and more use cases that make sense to your customers.
So we've talked a lot about using it in the consumer world in a purchase or a marketing context. Do you see any applications for this on a B2B side or in a customer service organization where a brand's interacting with customers to fix a problem or something? I mean,
customer service will absolutely use RCS. This interactivity. We work with insurance companies that do if your car breaks down, you can actually chat with someone. Text messaging was good at that. RCS is so much better at that because it remembers things. You can actually have that conversation and interactivity between that. So yes, those use cases will hands down be better with RCS. I think, but it doesn't have to be that, right? I mean, you can still do the broadcasts of like, hey, 10% off offer this weekend. And so, the interactivity piece I'm really excited about. But I go back to, let's just use that example, right? My car has died. I'm on the side of a road. I text into my insurance company and, to try and get a tow truck. And I see that my insurance company has read my message and they're not responding. Like that might get frustrating, right? Yeah. So you kind of have to be careful on that. And you need to make sure you're ready to respond, or else you want to make sure that your customers are feeling supported, right? With text, I think you get a little more lenience of like, oh, I sent the message and somebody's reading it somewhere, but like you see someone typing back, and you like, and all of a sudden the little dots go away. I mean, we've all,
Yeah.
everyone's experience. I always use the dating analogy. Like, if imagine you're on your first date, you text someone afterwards, and you see them responding, and then they go away. Like that's just nightmare, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, from a brand, you have to think about that. There is a social aspect to messaging, and I think the brands that do it well do that well. Like they know that.
Great. So, just it's been a great conversation, Alex. It's fantastic. Just to wrap it up, like, what are you most excited about when it comes to using RCS? Do you see? Is it going to transform the industry? Is it going to change how we interact? Just what is your most excitement about this RCS technology?
It definitely will transform the industry. I think messaging. I mean, it's funny, we all talk about like triple tapping and like text messaging on a non-smartphone and how crazy that was. Like, we're gonna do the same thing like in 5 years, about like, oh my god, you could just send a link with a bunch of different characters. That was horrible. So yes, RCS. I honestly think. I mean, it's interesting that we're our exec team. We're sitting down trying to think of what is a use case that will stay on SMS, and we couldn't really come up with one because RCS is just better at everything. It's a little bit more expensive, so maybe in an instance where like that really matters, or it's a low margin kind of a message. But like, to me, I would say, why are you sending that as text, right? Like if the information is so important that your customer needs to see it right now, like you should be willing to pay for that, right? Or just send an email. Like, go ahead and send an email. It doesn't matter. So, I think to your question, yes, I think everything will go RCS. Just from the trust factor alone of now I can actually trust that a message is what it says it is. And I think as we start to roll out more interactive use cases with more media and more high-res pictures, that's going to evolve pretty quickly. And I think in the end, I think it's going to be good for the consumer, because if everything shifts to RCS, you shouldn't get the toll scams anymore because there's a vetting process, right? And so I think at some point you'll get to the point where it's like a message comes in via RCS, a message comes in via SMS, and you're like, I'm kind of skeptical of the SMS part, right? I think that's how it will evolve over the next kind of 5 years or so.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure most people are as well, as mobile phone use just continues to rise. So, Alex, thank you so much for sharing all this insight with us today, and informing our audience. It's a great topic, and good luck as the RCS technology continues to grow.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.